things that really aggravates me, really gets under my skin and makes me want to scream is when a webtoon wastes time. Wastes time by focusing on something that doesn't actually matter to the plot. Wastes time by having the artist draw something that never actually contributes to the story in the grand scheme of things. Wastes time by having you, the audience, focus on something that will never ever pay off. It's like the final boss of edging. Whoa! That should not happen. Someone should really get that mount fixed. We interrupt this program for our sponsor, me. That's right, baby. I finally made merch in the form of a hoodie. It's getting colder out, so you can now have a super soft and warm hoodie too. I designed and drew this with my dogs in mind. You can see Popeye here and Chirps here. And I think they look pretty cool. No AI involved, it's all me, baby. It's available in green, navy, cream, and pink. You can even match me if you want, cause I'll be wearing this bad boy till the sun comes out. I think people say that. These are also some super cool people who like their hoodies, so if you want to wear some cool YouTuber merch too, and, you know, not have it be super ugly with just my name across the front, now you can! I greatly appreciate anyone who does decide to take a gander at these hoodies because it does help me in continuing to make cool content for you all. You can get yours today by checking the link down below, and without further ado, let's get back to the video. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been going through a couple different webtoons looking for a comic to make a video on. This typically involves me sitting down and reading the entirety of a comic in a very, very short amount of time. Sometimes a couple hundred chapters in just a day or two. As I've been doing this, I've started to notice just how many webtoons do this thing. This really annoying writing tendency where so many webtoons will just not fire their Chekhov's guns. What is a Chekhov's gun? Well, the theory first written by Russian playwright Anton Chekhov is that every element introduced into a story should be relevant and serve a purpose within that story. The famous example Anton Chekhov used was that one must never place a loaded rifle on stage if it isn't going to go off. It's wrong to make promises you don't intend to keep. Basically, the long and short of it is don't waste time explaining or showing things that are never going to come back up. It's like when you have to wait for a plumber to show up to your house between the hours of 2 a.m. to 12 a.m. and you sit and wait and you can't go to sleep and you can't leave the house because what if the plumber comes? And then by the time 12:01 a.m. hits, you realize the plumber is never actually coming. You've essentially wasted your whole day waiting on someone as elusive as Bigfoot to show up. And that makes me mad. Don't waste my time! It seems like a pretty easy concept to understand, especially when it comes to an artistic medium like webtoons. Art takes time, and every choice you make is incredibly specific. You're the one choosing to draw the hypothetical gun on the mantelpiece. If it doesn't matter, don't draw it. But time and time again, I find myself reading webtoons spending time on plot lines that go nowhere, swiping a hole in my screen just for the last 10 chapters to have no value to the greater plot at hand. One of the biggest, and I mean biggest, offenders of this, seeing as how it has over 160 chapters, is the comic To You Who Swallowed a Star, a webtoon I read at the beginning of the year, but could not, for the life of me, turn into a video. Until now! You didn't waste your time, buddy! To You Who Swallowed a Star follows a 16-year-old girl named Ju who meets two young kids in her neighborhood, Heijin and his sister Haeyol. Ju takes pity on them as they are neglected and abused by their father at home, so she takes it upon herself to essentially raise these kids with the goal of giving them happy memories for when they're adults. Ju and Heijin then fall in love. Now, the obvious problematic parts of that are actually fairly boring. The comic skates around its uncomfortable age gap and keeps itself technically legal and ethical critical. Enough that while I'm uncomfortable about it, there's not really much to say. It's just kind of icky. That said, I think the controversial aspects of this comic have made people overlook the fact that the story is full of so many holes, loose ends, and unfired Chekhov's guns that it would make my high school novels look like Shakespeare descended from the heavens and wrote them in golden ink. The story repeatedly would have like a somewhat decent buildup of a character, an arc, or plot line, but then would just skip ahead by like 5 years. Forget the gun on the mantelpiece never firing. The entire house in which the mantle with the gun resides doesn't actually matter, and we should just forget about it. It's so frustrating. Many readers have speculated that the giant time jumps were only written into the story so the author could get away from the pedo allegations. Now, I understand that Ju isn't necessarily in a position of power when it comes to the relationship, but I still think there is a power indifference between the two. Well into adulthood, Ju's personality starts to plateau while she's away for school, and when she does eventually go back to Korea at age 27, she feels exactly the same as immature and childish as she did when she was 22. But this is shown as fine because Haejin is 22 and older now, so the pair should be on the same level maturity-wise. But again, when Ju comes back home to Korea, she still doesn't shut up about how much she thinks of Haejin and Haeyeol as siblings to her, which one might find is odd. I would only hope. You're like a son and daughter to me. Please don't date your children. Don't do it. I think that as the story went on, the author realized their mistake and tried to correct the past actions of the characters by aging them both up. But because the author did this, they then had to spend chapter upon chapter explaining to us why it was okay for them to then date. And because the author is then trying to explain that idea to us, they fall into an endless cycle of giving us reasons why we should ship the main couple. Reasons that ultimately don't play into the wider story and just leave readers with loose ends. The biggest example I can think of off the top of my head is midway through the comic when Ju finds a bunch of letters Haejin had written to her while she was away at college. Haeyeol, the second child Ju helped raise, really wants the pair to get together, like romantically. You know how you feel about your mother figure and brother? So when she hears that Haejin will never confess his feelings for Ju, she devises a plan. Haeyeol takes Ju's laptop and leaves it next to a letter, and when Ju sees it and sees where the letter had fallen from, she investigates. Ju then finds that Haejin had written her a letter every single week for 5 years, and then Ju puts the letter back with the others and we never see them ever again. We don't even have a moment where Ju realizes Mama. We don't even have a moment where Ju realizes Haejin cares for her or anything. It genuinely never comes back into the story, which is frustrating because why on earth would you waste readers' time like that? Please. If my romantic partner was writing me letters and I found them, I would 100% read them. I would think about them. I would put them into a little book so I could look at them whenever I want. Even if Ju wasn't supposed to see them, right? Like, she never asks about them after her and Haejin get together. Haejin never gifts them to her on her wedding day. We never see the letters again. I have written you a letter every day since we met. All these years, I've painstakingly expressed my heart to you, and I would like to give these to you for our wedding day as a symbol of my love. Cool. You could just like set them over there or something. But I thought you'd at least read one. Okay, why don't you read it to me or something? Sure. Yeah. Okay. You know how that joke made you feel? Unsatisfied, confused, angry even? That's how this comic feels. I feel the point of a Chekhov's gun should kind of feel like a ball and chain you carry around during your reading. So when the ball and chain is finally undone, you should feel this sense of freedom and satisfaction that you no longer have to feel the weight of this ball and chain. But with these webtoons that never fire their guns, you're just laden with all of these balls. Something else that really, and I mean truly, truly blue-balled me in this comic was the use of the antagonist Warren. Warren also likes Ju, and throughout the comic he does everything in his power to get with her. At one point when they were kids, Warren throws away all of Ju's favorite CDs, and when Warren's mom goes to apologize for his bad behavior, she tells Ju that Warren only acts like that because something bad happened to him as a child. Can you guess if we ever hear about this bad thing ever again? Go ahead, take a wild guess. We never hear about it ever again! It was supposed to be like this pivotal moment for Ju to realize that she should do whatever it takes to make Warren happy because something bad happened. But this turns into an Unfired Chekhov's gun because we then never hear about the bad thing ever again. We don't see Ju thinking that she should do what Warren wants because a bad thing happened. We don't see Warren's POV thinking that he should get his way because life is so hard. We never, ever hear about it ever again. Ugh. Since we never hear about it ever again, it's been really getting on my nerves. What kind of bad thing? Like, how bad are we talking? Did his dad die? Did he have to overcome some terminal disease? Did he drop his ice cream? How sympathetic should I be for this character? From a reader's perspective, where I either have to come back once a week to read a single chapter or pay money in order to read chapters in advance, this is a bit ridiculous. It's a waste of my time when there was never actually anything to these scenes. But from an artist's perspective, it's also a huge waste of time and resources. Why bother storyboarding and drawing each panel, spending hours upon hours for each chapter just to have the entire thing you drew be utterly pointless and useless to the overall comic you are drawing? You, as a creator, spend all of this time pointing out these Chekhov's guns only for them to actually not matter. All you're doing is blue-balling your audience. Don't do that. I was left feeling incredibly empty, annoyed, and even a little pissed. Hello? Oh. You want to watch a show, little guy? Okay. I don't remember what DVD I left in here, but I guess we can watch whatever's there. Well, that's incredibly serendipitous. Rango is an incredible example of how you should properly fire off a Chekhov's gun. We follow an unnamed pet chameleon as he's thrown out of his owner's car into a barren desert. He wanders into an old western town simply called Dirt, and in a wild attempt to find himself, he names himself Rango and begins to roleplay as the desperate town's sheriff. Rango soon learns of the town's dire need of water, and because he was deemed as Dirt's savior, he unravels a conspiracy to control the town through the seemingly missing water, thus becoming the real hero he initially pretended to be. Rango is so good. You should take this as a spoiler warning and go watch it if you don't want me to give anything away. So there you go. During the first act, when Rango is wandering through the desert, we see a Mojave yucca tree, also referred to as a walking tree in the movie. We hear a voice telling Rango not to move, and he mistakenly thinks it's the tree talking to him. At first, it's just a funny moment for the audience to see Rango so out of place in the desert he thinks that a tree is talking to him. In the second act, when our heroes are setting up camp in the desert for the night, we have a moment between Rango and his love interest Beans. Side note, this movie is great at naming things. Ever since she was a little girl, she'd go out and watch the walking trees at night, telling Rango that as a child she was told that they walk towards water. So she would stay up at night hoping to follow them and find water for her and her father and their dying farm, essentially. It seems like a cute story about Beans and the type of character she is, hopeful, imaginative, and caring. In the third act, we finally come back to the walking trees who lead Rango to his ultimate goal, walking towards where the water is, just as Beans had said, being sentient just as Rango thought them to be. They lead him to where the water had gone, causing Rango to understand who and how they had stolen the water from the people of Dirt. The walking trees became such a unique payoff that was unexpected and yet felt totally necessary to the story even from the very beginning. Another fantastic Chekhov's gun during the film is when Rango is sitting in the waiting room of the mayor's office. Feeling out of place, he grabs a golf club mounted on the wall and pretends to golf. Initially, you could write this off as Rango is such a goofy goofy guy. Isn't he so funny? But as we learn about why the water left the town of Dirt, we come to understand that the entire plot revolves around golf, as the villain was inspired by seeing the human city of Las Vegas, which Rango comes to understand when he too sees Vegas, and an evil golf course. What am I talking about? All golf courses are evil! Rango itself is a little under 2 hours, so it makes sense that they are able to keep their writing so tight, and almost every character, location, and line has some sort of meaning or payoff in the long run. I think one of the reasons a webtoon can struggle with this is because the author and the reader can just forget about stuff. When a comic stretches on past the 100 chapter mark, goes on for years at a time, I feel like it could be really easy to forget about stuff that happened over 70 chapters ago. Hell, I don't even know if I'd have noticed quite as many of the unfired guns in To You Who Swallowed a Star if I had read it a week at a time instead of going back to back to back to back. But I feel like even if the reader doesn't consciously remember a dangling plot thread, I think over time, on a subconscious level, it can really make characters start to feel weird. Webtoons are stories, and like any other story, they're made up of a series of causes and effects. Things happen, and in response, our characters do things about them. So when a comic introduces something, a concept, a setting, a character interaction, and then forgets about it, it really does pull you out of the story. I remember when Ju found all those letters Heijin had written to her, so why does it seem like our characters don't? Not only does it just serve to waste time inserting random plot lines that start and end at the drop of a hat, it makes our characters feel less inserted into their story, like they've got gaps in their memory that just make them feel like less of a complete person. If you set up a Chekhov's gun, please fire it. Otherwise, you will leave your audience incredibly disappointed and annoyed that their time has been wasted. And before I'd go, I'd like to say, thank you so much to my patrons, Izama, Roses and Water, Lady Alpossum, Nowhere to Xander, TJ, Mency Williams, Char Char, Ligon, Meat Cubed, Aleheart, Bean Dork, Anna the Giant, Abigail, Selena Beebe, Claudia E. Gomez, Blue Vamp Countess, Pink Naya, Mies Coles Punk, Squidius, Kathleen O'Neill, Needius Fox, Punchy McPuncherson, Stacy Child, Jocelyn Hertel, Steel Angel, Dominus Bader, Fizzy Dizzy Studios, Jumping Spooter, Matt Nicky, Zany Gemini, and Natalie Deer? If you would like to join my Patreon to have your name read aloud at the end of these videos and get early access to my main videos as well as my second channel's videos, you can join my Patreon for only $2 a month. And don't forget to check out that cool merch. Yeah. All right, bye-bye.